Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Thanks for joining us and welcome to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn here. And we have a special show for you. Ken Russo, you brought a friend today.
I'm here, but I have to share you this week, Jen.
I know. I love this. I will tell you in a second. We're going to talk about the mentality of owning gold. But before we get there, we have to talk about how we got into the situation that we are in right now, currently with the financial system, the economic system, as it is today. And, oh man, it started with what seemed to be an experiment in the best interest of the American people, no doubt, from former president.
For our own benefit. For
our own benefit. This is where we start our show every single week. Back in 1971, Richard Nixon announcing this grand experiment.
Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Fake money system was born.
That's right. So that means that all of those dollars, all of that paper money, no longer backed by the power of gold.
By nothing. Air, made up money, IOUs, debt. And that's kind of what's all coming together now, Jen, and on our show every week. How do we protect ourselves from losing it all when and if the system implodes?
Because there are multiple ways where the system can implode. Obviously, your dollar loses value. We can talk about inflation. We talk about bubbles that burst, but we also talk about banks collapsing. We also talk about you not being able to get a hold of your paper money when you need it. And that is why people are considering gold, silver, and precious metals. They're doing it with Midas Gold Group, a fantastic company, 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD. And you can call and talk to Ken Russo, but you can also talk to our guest in studio today. So excited to have, finally, for the first time on this program, at least since I've been around, the founder and Marine Corp veteran, James Clark, is here in studio with us today. James, welcome to the Gold Standard.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a long time in coming, and it's a pleasure to sit down with both of you finally.
Did you lose a bet with Ken? Is that how he convinced you to come in studio with us?
No, I think it just got so hot at our headquarters in Phoenix that, I had to fly out here to California for a few days. So I think that's it.
122 is a little toasty, Jen.
122. That is rough. Does gold melt at 122 degrees?
No.
Okay.
Joe Biden's ice cream melts at 122 degrees.
Joe Biden melts at 122 degrees. He's already melting. So let's jump into it, because today we're going to talk about the mentality of owning gold, what people are thinking about. And there is a difference. Obviously, people who make decisions about money, financial advisors, economists, everybody has a different walk in life. But James, let's start with you. What is the difference in mentality between investing in the stock market or other investment options and investing in precious metals?
Well, I think it boils down to, because I've given a lot of thought to this, I've talked to a lot of clients about it, and I really have to give Andrew Tate credit, because I think he articulated it very well on his recent interview with Tucker Carlson. He said, the main battle out there, it's not between liberals and conservatives. Liberals and conservatives can disagree on certain issues, but get along great. The battle is between the people who think, who want to question, who want to make their own rational decisions, come to their own rational conclusions, and those people that want to comply. Those people that want to go along, get along. There's a virus out there. Okay, I'll shut down my business. I'll stay in my house. I'll inject myself with experimental vaccines.
To comply or not comply.
Right. So I think, what we do as a gold dealer is you've got the financial advisors, and sure, some of them are good, but they have to, for liability reasons, offer structured financial plans based on a set of assumptions, a set of inflation assumptions consistent with Fed targets, debt assumptions, the dollar being the world reserve currency forever assumptions. Whereas we really try to break into people's train of thought and say, isn't it perhaps, you look, in the past 3 years, we've tripled the money supply. Is it perhaps to think about being involved in a different currency and not to keep playing the shell game that they're playing on Wall Street with the structured products? And I mean, I understand people diversifying, and people should diversify. And if part of that diversification involves something like, investing in, say, a BlackRock, a company, of course, we're laundering money through Ukraine. So a lot of that Ukrainian money, we found out, has ended up being invested in BlackRock because Ukraine is saving it for a later date. So it's invested into BlackRock, which is put into the housing market. So it's essentially a money laundering scheme into BlackRock. If you can see where the government is favoring certain companies, because that's where most valuations are coming from, is stock valuations of what the government is doing and how they're helping different entities versus real value, you want to take advantage of that, invest in something. I can certainly understand that, and I can see the argument for it. But you shouldn't be putting all your eggs in one basket, and you need to think about what other type of options are out there for me. Whether it's land, and I think for currency, people should be waking up saying, hey, I'm not going to follow the trend of what I'm told to do, which is deposit my money in the bank and then go see my financial advisor so he can come up with a plan. So I'm gonna work my whole life to make something, and then essentially have it all run by the bankers, turn all over to the banking system. I want some control of some of what I've worked hard for.
And what I'm hearing, and Ken Russo, chime in on this, is that when you are considering where you want to put your money and diversifying, that's important. We all agree that diversifying is important, right? So that you have a little bit in all those different buckets. But when you are a person who is questioning the government's leadership, questioning the good intentions of the government, looking at what we've seen their decision-making process to be over the last couple of years, if you want to take some personal responsibility and realize that you got to trust yourself to protect the money that you've earned, people who are doing that are the ones who come to Midas Gold and look into getting gold, correct?
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to look at it. And it's about, control. How much can you control, and how much of your money do you want monitored, and how much of what you've saved do you want to be connected to a system like this? As a company, we're very disgusted with where this country is headed and how it's being led. We're very upset about the money situation, the privacy aspect of it, the monitoring aspect of it, and the value aspect of it, for sure. What's it really going to be worth? So if you don't want to have all of your eggs in that kind of a basket, because it's not an even playing field. We're seeing a lot of stuff going on. It's not an even playing field, and neither is the monetary system. It's tilted for the advantages of a certain few, and the rest of us, through inflation and loss of purchasing power and now privacy, we're getting it constantly, and we're losing value, and our savings is dwindling. And what could you put your funds into that historically over time has held its value as real money? And don't forget, the definition of real money is a store of value.
Right.
Something that holds its value and something that has the potential to go up tremendously in value, because on the other side, our currency, our fiat currency, which they continue to print, to infinity out of thin air, is losing tremendous value. And I think we're only getting started with this. And I think over the next few years, it's going to get a lot worse. So your situation doesn't have to get worse. And like James said, that's the mentality of someone that says, hey, I'm not going to put all of my eggs in this kind of a system. I know it's for Wall Street's benefit.
Yeah, the global basket.
Well, that's right. Yeah, the global basket of stocks, bonds, mutual funds. It's all paper. It's all connected to the banking system. It's all manipulated. The true form of money is gold. And that's something that, in our opinion, should be important to every single American at this point, more important than ever.
Yeah, and I love the fact that gold is something you can hold on to. James Clark, Ken Russo, we're all together today. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show. If you're thinking about gold, silver, precious metals, you want something that you can control in your possession and your power, 855-322-GOLD. That's the number to call from anywhere in the country. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. James, comment on that, because there is power in having something that you hold on to and you're safe.
Right. And I think one point Ken just made that was important was he talked about the banking system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to think about how non-independent the banking system is. The banking system is run essentially by the major banks. The major banks rely on the government for short-term funding, repo, everything else. I have a client that owns a bank. He bought a small private bank. I believe it was a credit union. And he said, I've never owned a business where I have no control over my own business.
Wow.
If
and
I
he's the
have
owner.
if I have an idea, I have to go run it by the banking regulators.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide whether or not I can go implement that idea. He can make essentially no decisions whatsoever about his own bank, his own business. And so you're not in really a private institution.
Yeah.
You're in an institution that answers to the government and, certainly answers to people that are members of organizations like the World Economic Forum that show up in their private jets to tell the rest of us that we shouldn't drive cars and we should probably start thinking about eating bugs and
get rid of our water heater, cold showers for everyone.
And should own nothing. Yeah.
Pizza's gone,
Man,
a water heater's gone. All right, in our last moment, an 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD to talk to the folks over at Midas Gold Group. The banking system is crazy. Not only do they not even answer to themselves.
Not stable.
But it's not stable. We've already had 3 bank collapses this year.
And there's going to be more.
And there's how many on the watch list?
A lot.
A lot.
And interest rates are high. And, don't forget, Mark Thune in Granada Hills said that he loves you and we need to take our country back.
You tell Mark he's right. We do need to take the country back. And you tell him I love him right back. Mark Thune, one of the listeners to this program. 855-322-4653. Call and talk to the good folks at Midas Gold Group. Get your questions answered. Take control of your own finances. You've worked too hard to lose that money. 855-322-GOLD. James Clark, our guest today. There is more up ahead. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn back together again this week, but even better than ever, Ken, we've got James Clark in studio with us.
I have him every day, but I get to share him with you today.
Well, I love having him here. He is also one of the founders of Midas Gold Group, a Marine Corp vet. We always talk about veteran-owned
Good man to have
Midas
on your
Gold
side.
Group. Absolutely. He's got our 6, right? He's got our backs in all of this. James Clark, welcome to the Gold Standard.
Pleasure to be with you guys.
So, Ken and James, let's talk about the big picture. What's happening right now? There has been the implementation of the Fed Now system, which I said, Ken, is a little bit like grooming, right? It's getting us used to this idea of digital currency.
Yeah, relevant word, grooming.
Isn't
business to business right now, but it's a way to kind of, oh, this is for the benefit of the customer. It's free. It's fast. It's efficient. Oh, tremendous. Let's try it out for everybody. And we mentioned that, and that's where we're headed. So in a nutshell, if you don't want to have all of your assets or all of your money in a system like that, it's going to be all digital, monitored. Who knows what it's going to be worth? Now's the time you can do something about it. Be ahead of the curve.
James, what makes people scared of digital currency? They always present it, and I mean the government, the big scary government, always presents it as something that's convenient. But was it convenient for the Canadian truck drivers who had their bank accounts shut down by the government? That's a real possibility with digital currency.
I mean that is one of the purposes of it. Of course, everything that's intrusive by the government, it's always for your benefit. Look at the Patriot Act.
Absolutely.
September 11th. We're going to protect you. We're going to be able to spy on you now, and monitor your messages, store your phone calls, and it's the same thing coming here. I mean, we talked before about how structured the whole banking system was, how it answered, to a single group of elites in the banking system. Those same elites have made it no secret that they want total control, that they want people living in 15-minute cities, that they want people owning nothing and being happy. They want them, working a job where they can pay their rent, and they don't want them going out owning a business. They don't want them out, starting their own farms, ranches, and doing things where they can be independent and self-sufficient. So taking away people's freedom of to go and buy what they want, from who they want to buy it from, how they want to buy it, and not letting the government know what they're buying, why they're buying it, where they're buying it. That's a threat to the total control that we certainly see is coming.
Yeah,
very real.
And people might see this as conspiratorial, and a lot of people might have seen that a few years ago. But we just witnessed it going through COVID, just the unthinkable.
Anybody who said that anything is conspiratorial, I think, changed their mind after COVID.
It seems like all that conspiratorial stuff ends up being right.
Everything that was called a conspiracy theory ends up being truthful. And I think, and I want to ask you guys the questions, who gold is for, but even before we get there with this government oversight, talk about how gold is a private transaction, because I think there are a lot of people, Ken, who do not realize that if you buy gold and precious metals, that is still private. It's away from the government. It doesn't have that oversight, because I know every time you've used a credit card or you use digital pay, the government can see what you're doing.
Yeah, you're buying stuff on the internet. There's a paper trail. And a lot of people believe, as well as we do very strongly, that privacy and financial freedom matters. And with this type of system that we're going to be entering in the not too distant future, that financial privacy and that financial freedom is being destroyed. So the question is you have to fight for that, and you have to keep it, and you have to build it yourself. And one of the easiest ways to do that with money is with gold. And there's many other things that are going on in this country as well. But for money aspect side of it, it's very relevant. Many customers that want to own gold, we talked about their mindset. They're afraid they're not going to have access to their money. They're afraid they're not going to have access to their retirement accounts. I just read an article the other day that one of the 4 major banks in Australia has eliminated cash business in their branches. So like we talked about months ago, there may be limits on how much we can send out of the banks, maybe limits on how much we can take out at any given time. That's very real, and it's right around the corner. So, for people that have substantial money, hundreds of thousands of dollars at the bank or hundreds of thousands of dollars or more in retirement accounts, it's a very dangerous situation to just leave it.
Absolutely. You want to be able to get a hold of your money when you want to get a hold of it. And that's not what's happening right now. The current banking system, we told the story a few weeks ago about somebody who just went to get a relatively small amount of money out of the bank, and they were told to come back.
It's not going to get easier,
The bank's out of
especially
money.
with what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not going to get easier. It's going to become tougher and tougher and almost impossible.
If you're looking for the protection that gold and precious metals can provide, 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. James Clark is with us this week, joining Ken Russo and myself on the Gold Standard Radio Show. If I asked you the question, James, when we're talking about the mentality of those who look into gold, who should consider gold right now? Who should the customer for gold be? And I would say it's a wide swath of people, but tell us about that, because some people think they can't afford gold or precious metals.
I mean, anybody that has worked hard for money that they've saved and put away, and they want some protection on their hard assets. Anybody in that situation should have some gold. Even if you have a lot of other hard assets, if you own land, if you own real estate, if you own, this is probably more relevant to Arizona, if you have a very large firearm collection, all that stuff is valuable hard assets.
A Corvette with documents in a garage.
But everyone that has savings should have some private currency, and that's really what gold and silver is. This isn't buying an industrial metal. This isn't buying a stock you think is going to take off. This is parking your money in a currency that has always had value, and even now throughout the world is used in many countries that have strict regulations as barter.
Historically, by the way, gold has always been gold. Gold has always had value. Silver has always had value. Something you can hold on to.
In virtually every civilization, whether you look at China, whether you look at Egypt, Rome, Greece, every major civilization has always used gold as money. And ironically, it's been in countries and civilizations where have historically dwindled down their gold standards, much like we did starting in 1933 when we stopped redemption of gold. Then, of course, in 71, as you talked about in the beginning of the program, the United States went off the gold standard entirely. So it is a currency that many Americans they don't understand it. They think it's more complicated than it is. I mean, owning gold, owning silver is as simple as calling us, discussing what you might want to own, placing an order and having it shipped to you, or if you're local to one of our offices, coming in, paying for it, and walking out the door.
Which is pretty exciting. And then you take it home, you keep it with you, you keep it with your family. It's your own personal wealth. It holds its value, and God forbid something really does happen and you need that currency, it's home. You don't have to try to get it out of the bank.
I don't think there's anything to be scared about when it comes to diversifying and owning gold. I would be more scared to keep all of my money in the financial institutions and in the market in its present condition. Run
by President Mickey Mouse, right?
Well, a bunch of I like when you say ding-dongs.
Ding-dong, exactly right. Real quick, because I think one of the things that is also something for people to consider, and you both can chime in on this, the fact that people can use retirement accounts, existing retirement accounts, that's a way for people to own gold, right? You can convert that.
Yeah, I mean, and a large amount of clients' monies possibly is in a retirement account, so it makes sense to have a conversation. It makes sense to have a diversified plan, and it makes sense to have a portion of your nest egg in real money. And the only form of real money is gold.
855-322-GOLD. That's a number to call. Call and talk to the good folks. You've heard James, you've heard Ken. You call that number, you're going to talk to them and some other incredible folks. This is not a call center. You get to ask your questions. You get real answers. 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD. James Clark, do you think it's fair to say, as we circle back, the mentality of owning gold is for people who appreciate personal responsibility and having something real without having to trust the ding-dongs, as we say, to make, the bad decisions that we know they're going to make?
And it is, as we talked about, it's for people that think, that aren't told, okay, comply, this is how you should do it. This is again, going back to COVID, whether it's COVID, whether it's vaccines, whatever it is, people that want to ask their own questions.
Yeah.
For most people, I'm convinced on seeing the masses that for most people, it's a lot easier just to say, okay, this is the way I'm told to do it. This is the way the system works. I'm just going to go along.
I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, this is for people who want to ask questions. who want to shake up the system a little bit, who want to find out if this is right.
And also, we are not financial advisors.
Yeah.
So we are not going to direct people on what they should do. Give them a percentage they should own.
You provide.
We're going to give them options, and they'll make their own decision.
Absolutely, do it right now. 855-322-4653 from Midas Gold Group. 855-322-GOLD. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, James Clark, Ken Russo. I'm Jennifer Horn. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show.